and thanks to each and everyone present here today listening to me. Kindly allow me to share my screen so that I can walk you through two very important topics that I'm going to cover. The first half will be inflammation and breast cancer, and then I'm going to take you to the genetics behind breast cancer. Now, what is inflammation, right? Inflammation is a part of body's immune response. Without inflammation, we cannot heal. Any damage in the body, the healing process is through the inflammatory cells. But when inflammation goes out of control, it can damage the body. And that's why I always say that inflammation has two faces, one good side and one bad side too. Now, when a tumor is developing, in the body, the tumor development is also kind of leading way to inflammation because there can be therapy-induced inflammation or tumor-associated inflammation, and inflammation caused by environmental and dietary exposure, and definitely different chronic inflammation within the body. It can be driven through any infection in the body or also autoimmunity, and that can be any autoimmune disorders or diseases. And one of the diseases we know very well is arthritis. So I'm going to focus a little bit on arthritis, the relationship between autoimmune arthritis and breast cancer. And the reason why I'm covering this is because this was my work that we discovered that with breast cancer and arthritis, the metastasis is significantly augmented with arthritic condition versus non-arthritic condition. And this work got press release in 2012 at American Association of Cancer Research. Now, coming to like what is the activity going on, right? So I just want to give a brief story here. Like when I presented this data in 2012 at Chicago, and then many patients reached out to me during and after, saying that now they realized like why their friends, who were detected at the same stage, but we kind of lost them because we do not focus on the other chronic conditions in the body when detected with cancer. So I would really urge each of us here that if we are detected with cancer, then we should not ignore any conditions, any pre-existing conditions in the body, because everything feeds each other. There are different pathways which are cross interlinked, and also the mechanisms. For example, with arthritis, what we discovered was that there are many pro-inflammatory cytokines which are upregulated, and that really helps because with breast cancer, their favorite place to travel is bones. And just imagine when there's huge inflammation in the bone, it's like giving fuel to the fire. So that's why the cancer cells love to travel, because they find a very beautiful environment there, a friendly environment which kind of homes the breast cancer cells towards the bones much faster compared to the non-arthritic condition. And the different pro-inflammatory cytokines would be interleukin 6, IL-17, TNF alpha, VEGF, MCSF. And then when we went deeper, we discovered that, these pro-inflammatory factors are also produced by mast cells, which are activated by tumor-derived stem cell factor and its receptor c-KIT. So you can see that we have the c-KIT receptor here, and the breast cancer cells, they express stem cell factor, which is SCF. And that helps to remodel not only the tumor microenvironment, but also helps to, like remodeling the target organs, the target microenvironment. And when, if I wanted to just show you in a brief that what we found that, SCF expression, this is the picture of breast cancer cells with the expression of SCF, which you see that red tinge over here in all the breast cancer cells. Now, the bones and the lungs, they have a lot of inflammation, and that's why the expression of the mast cells driven c-KIT receptors, which are on the mast cells, are huge. And so when this stem cell factor, which these breast cancer cells are traveling, they kind of get attracted to these organs. And that's why, because it's like a lock and key mechanism, the ligand and the receptor, they will bind with each other. And that's how the breast cancer cells are traveling to the distant organs much faster. So this was our discovery, and kind of like it paved the pathway that definitely with inflammation or with arthritic condition is very essential that we try to target the arthritis because it will really help with reducing the traveling of the breast cancer cells towards the distant organs. So going a little bit more deeper, and what are the other factors, leading to inflammation? So definitely, if we have a chronic condition, which is an inflammatory condition that is not a good in microenvironment, right? So, but then there may be other factors which we can control. Like for example, when we have arthritis or an inflammatory condition, we definitely need to target the inflammation, and we are going to our respective doctors, we are taking all the treatments to lower the inflammation in the body. But there are other key risk factors also leading to inflammation, and one of the key factors, I would always say, is obesity, because obesity leads to develops a lot of underlying inflammation in the body, which is again not good. The other factors are smoking. We always think that smoking means is only restricted to the lungs. That's not the fact. And then smoking and nicotine, these are the highest, one of the main carcinogens, which is causing different type of cancers worldwide. It's not only about smoking cigarettes. There are different forms of tobacco, and any tobacco intake is causing underlying inflammation in the body. The other factor is alcohol. Like I know that now recent research is showing that alcohol also, like frequent intake of alcohol in the women, is showing that it's causing more of breast cancer, especially in the in different age group population. Now, if we look deeper, we will see that even alcohol finally is coming down to undergrade inflammation in the body. So you see where the connectivity is. It's kind of like the mechanism is driven towards different forms of inflammation. Then diabetes, any other conditions in the body, the environmental factors, they also play a role. And one very important thing that I want to touch base is the stress. Stress, I would say, is a master regulator for all kind of diseases. The kind of trigger factor, and also helps with the progression. Stress releases many neurotransmitters, which kind of helps with the progression of cancer. Now, how do we curtail stress? It's not easy, because even when we are detected, if we are detected with cancer, or before or during, we are always in a stressful environment. So I would say that the easy way is we should be happy. How we can be happy in our life with our family or whatever makes us happy. Even like exercise leads to a lot of exercise really helps in reducing the stress in the body. But I'm not saying that going in the treadmill and running, and if you don't like it, then you can try for other forms of exercise. Maybe if you love to dance, you can dance, right? That can be also another form of exercise. Now exercise is very important for the body, even before, pre, and during also. Now it's being seen that a lot of chemotherapy during our treatment, we are also suggested with, doing some form of exercise because it will really help. So exercise is a stress. These are the, like the cohesive factors, which is helping further with the inflammation in the body, which is again connected with the progression of cancer. So it's very important that we curtail the inflammation in the body by the ways possible from our side. There are a lot of times women tell me that, Lopa, we have done everything right. Why did we still, why did we have breast cancer? And I really have no answer, because there is a bucket which is still unknown. But there are a lot of things which are known, like tobacco. 30 to 50% of the cancers can be prevented with the tobacco, if we prevent tobacco intake. Then stress, if we do some exercise, obesity, whatever is in our control, we need to do that. At least we can try that from our side, which is going to help for sure. Now, stress and inflammation, and how do we identify? Because a lot of research shows that, a physical response to feeling challenged or threatened induces or worsens the medical condition, right? But when stress becomes chronic, it can lead to constant tissue damage and impairment of the immune system. Now, how do we identify the stress? There are a lot of times we don't even realize that we are going through anxiety, we are going through stress, but any appetite changes, headache, acne, decreased energy or insomnia, sudden chronic pain, rapid heartbeat, sweating, frequent sickness. These are all signs and patterns of stress. And then we really need to be alarmed at that time because we because underlying, they are really affecting the cells in our body. So in our body, what happens is that there's a constant damage of the DNA of the cells, but there's a repair mechanism which is helping the damaged DNA to be, repaired. But if the body is under constant stress, at that time, what happens is our repair mechanisms they fall weak, and that's when the cells, if that mutate, if the DNA is being damaged, it kind of multiplies, rigorously, and that's how the tumor is being formed. So I'm not saying that stress is the only regulator, but there are many other factors. But stress can be a contributor, one of the contributors, and that's what I'm trying to emphasize. Now, exercise definitely, as I mentioned, it helps in reducing the inflammation, acute or chronic immune response that can because because it contributes to the cancer risk. And then here also, like as I touched based on stress and healthy lifestyle, it's not only about smoking or any form of tobacco or reducing alcohol, but also avoiding like the food plays a very important role, like avoiding the junk food, processed food, canned food, pesticide exposed food. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the different type of food which are anti-inflammatory. So that way, inflammation, because all these food products, what they do is they generate more and more free radicals inside the body, which are again contributing to damaging the DNA of the cells. So that's why food is a very important part of our lifestyle is played by healthy food, good food in the body. There are different occupational hazards, which contributes to the inflammation. For example, workplace susceptible to radiation, smoke, other carcinogens, sedentary job, which kind of like because nowadays a lot of our job is restricted to the laptop, and we forget because we are so busy balancing life and family that we forget that we need to give a little bit time to ourselves. We go out for a walk, or I know in COVID is not possible, or at least we can do some yoga or some exercise at home. Another important thing that we always ignore is the water, because we need to check the contaminant levels in water, and this can include naturally occurring substances like arsenic, fertilizer byproducts like nitrate, as well as compounds formed when chlorine, to disinfect water comes into contact with the organic material in water. And in US, if you read if you come across, like you might have come across many news, like for example, the Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, there was a seepage of there was a marine base, and for years, like it was not known that there was a seepage of contaminated water in the wells, and then over the 2 decades, like people were drinking this contaminated water, and now mostly every household in the Camp Lejeune is like affected with cancer and breast cancer, especially in the men. So so that's why it's not only about like being vigilant about what we are eating, but also our environment. Also the water we are drinking, everything builds up. Now, coming a little bit to the food, right? So why do we have to? Why are we like? Why do we have to eat healthy? Maybe this question may come to us, like, what is actually going on? So what happens is that inside our body there are free radicals which are generated, and you can see this free radical. It will go and damage the DNA of the cells. Now, if we have antioxidants, like what do the antioxidants do? Like, for example, we are always emphasizing, okay, green tea is good with antioxidant, this is good with antioxidant, but what actually does it do? Now, antioxidant, it will donate an electron, and then what happens is this stabilizes the free radical, so it no longer causes harm to the cells. And that's why, because free radicals are constantly being formed in the body. And then these antioxidants help to clean up the free radicals. And that's how the antioxidant, in our diet, it really helps to balance. Because everyday life, the free radicals are normally generated in our body, but the contributors can be the environment, that more contributors to generate for the generation of free radicals, or it can be food or bad food in our body. But that's why we need enough antioxidants to balance it. Now, what are the different food, which can, how the diet plays a role? So, one of the, I always emphasize on certain food which are really high anti-inflammatory. One is the turmeric. I know in those who are familiar with the Indian food, they know that turmeric is a part and parcel. But I'm not saying that turmeric will cure cancer. That way, no Indian families would have had cancer, but cancer is in rise in the Asian countries. But what it does is that curcumin, the byproduct of turmeric, has antioxidant effects and it promotes healthy cell function. And turmeric combined with the black pepper, it actually enhances the curcumin absorption. So I would request that, I always tell everyone, please get the fresh turmeric roots from the market. You can get it in any organic stores or also like maybe Indian stores and add that little bit to your diet. I'm not saying that I do not prefer any capsulated form of turmeric curcumin available. Always fresh is better. Now, the other ingredients I would say is ginger, fresh onion, fresh garlic. Instead of using the paste, like the ginger garlic paste in the market, which is rich in preservative and other things, it's always better to get the fresh ginger, fresh garlic because they have therapeutic properties, preventing the formation of the inflammatory compounds in the body and also reduces the buildup of carcinogens in the body. So that's why these simple things are really helpful for our body. Now, the other ingredients can be the beet. Beet is like rich in phytochemicals. Sweet potato, it has got high carotenoids, and then it's also rich in anti-inflammatory products. Now, green tea has flavonoids, and then capsaicin. Capsaicin is we will find it in peppers, chili peppers, or a lot of times in the bell peppers. And this capsaicin, I'm not saying that have it so much that you have gastric problem, but always it has got lot of peppers, have lot of anti-inflammatory products, which are really helpful for the body. Now, other food that fight inflammation can be tomatoes, fruits and berries, nuts, leafy green, vegetables, then fatty fish, which is rich in omega-3, fatty acids, which are really helpful being anti-inflammatory. Now, what are the food that triggers the inflammation? What can we curtail in our diet? I'm not saying that we can stop it totally. We don't have to stop it, but at least minimize it in our daily life. For example, the first thing is sugar. Now, there's no direct link found between sugar and, the cancer progression. But what happens is that if we think logically, sugar finally leads to weight gain, leads to obesity, which further leads to inflammation in the body. Therefore, it's always better to reduce the intake of sugar in the form of desserts, pastries, sodas, chocolate bars, even the fruit juices, which have got a lot of added sugar. The other case can be like the saturated fats, because they are also they worsen the inflammation in the body. The trans fat in the form of fried products, processed snack foods, cookies, donuts, etc. These things are really not as helpful for our body because they will help in generating the free radicals, which I mentioned earlier, and even the refined carbohydrates. So it's always better to keep a balance, balance in our body because inflammation is definitely, research is being done through and through now, which is showing that how important impact inflammation, plays in during, before, during, or after. Now, the food carbon inflammation. So here I just made a chart to just give an overview on what I've mentioned just now. The food carbon inflammation is right here: like turmeric, olive oil, dark leafy greens, berries, green tea, beets, onion, garlic, ginger, nuts, peppers, tomatoes, fish, and the food aggravating sugars, saturated and trans fat, refined carbohydrates, and omega-6 fatty acids. So basically, keeping a balance is very important because our lifestyle, our environment, even like our like different conditions in our body, pre-existing diseases in our body, they all can contribute to inflammation, which is not a good criteria to have when we are having if we are affected with cancer. So it's always better to curtail the inflammation, and this, if we maintain this lifestyle, so even when we are cancer free, so this will also help in reducing the risk of recurrence. So that's what taking care of ourselves physically and emotionally through different, like the stress factor, being, understanding what is actually causing the emotional stress, and to a lot of time I say is the support group is so helpful, talking, discussing, and also knowing your own body. A lot of time, patients reach out to me saying that, the doctor said to do this, but what actually happens in our body? And every woman and man who is going through cancer, they have the right to know how the chemotherapy, how the drugs are working in the body, because those things are equally important. Now, how, and then once we are cancer free, once we are NT, so that we have to figure out how to reduce the risk of recurrence. And these are, I tried to put it together, certain factors like reduce or manage stress through yoga, meditation, or do what you really enjoy. Moderate exercise is very much recommended. Limit alcohol and quit smoking for sure. Maintain a healthy weight. Continue with regular health screening is very important. Have your vitamin D levels checked, because a lot of time vitamin D is very much related to cancer these days. So please get your vitamin D checked. Improvement of symptoms of arthritis, inflammatory bowel syndrome, lupus, and other autoimmune disorders. Decreased risk of obesity, heart disease, diabetes, depression, cancer, and other diseases. And load up our food with anti-inflammatory ingredients, and also cut back or eliminate the inflammatory food that can lead to blood sugar, cholesterol, and triglyceride levels. So what I'm trying to say is it's not one thing. Our lifestyle, the environment, we just have to be proactive. And even when we are going for the follow-up screening, it's very essential that we have to be on top of it. We have to mention that if clinical symptoms come up afterwards, so before that only we need to go through our proper screening, if needed, the scans in our body, which are very essential, so that we can capture anything if it's popping up. Because morphologically, when the symptoms come up, it's pretty like when it's already formed, right? So it's important that through scan or through MRI, we actually, even with the follow-up, we just have to be very proactive and advocate for ourselves. So this was all about I wanted to touch base on what is inflammation, within the body, the inflammatory cells, any damage done, or there is a huge influx of inflammatory cells which will help to repair the body. But this cells are also, if it becomes chronic, if for some reason it is not restricted only to the repairing the damage, it's becoming chronic, this inflammatory cells through different molecular mechanism. And one of the pathway that I showed you through the work with arthritis and breast cancer, in the same way there are many pathways which triggers the inflammatory process, which is again related to the oncogenic signaling pathway. But what are the ways we can control that? If we are having any pre-existing diseases which are related to inflammation, we need to really control that, keep a check on that all the time. Our lifestyle is very important, giving proper food, healthy diet, exercise, meditation. I wouldn't say like I do not get time for meditation, but whatever you can, meditation is very good, yoga is good, exercise, and keeping the stress level down in our body is very important. Keeping a check on our weight is very important, and also no tobacco for sure, because in no way it's good for our health, and then limiting the alcohol intake. So whatever is possible from our side, we need to do that, so that we can help our body, we can support our body inside. So whenever there's a damage in the DNA, all these factors will help to repair the DNA of the body. So this is the best we can do from our side to curtail inflammation, because you have seen that inflammation is really, I would say, one of the main regulators for progression of the cancer, and it's very essential that we keep it low to the best of our capacity. Now I would like to move to the next part of my talk, which is focusing on the family history and breast cancer. Now, family history is always important, right? I mean, I know that we all, when we come to breast cancer in women, we always ask one thing, that, okay, does anyone in your family have breast cancer, your aunt, your grandmother, or ovarian cancer? Because I'm going to talk about the mutations of different genes, which are triggering factor when we have in our family, it runs in our family. But we always forget the men of the family, because breast cancer is not restricted to women alone, though the frequency is 1 out of 883 now, or a lot of times it's not even reported. But then I know that it is rare, but it is not so rare that we ignore the men, because men, even there, I always think it in this way. Though it's the frequency of breast cancer in men is lower than women, but that man can be a father or a brother or a son of the family, right? So we collaborate with Male Breast Cancer Coalition, and Brett Miller fell the lump at the age of 18. Here you see Sam Raviera, he fell the lump at the age of 17. So they were so young when they got detected. And then here we lost Marlene Washburn. He was a principal of a school in the US. And his daughter was having breast cancer, but he had no idea that he could get breast cancer too. And when detected, it was already late. We had him only for 5 months. And his wife Patricia has the picture of Marlene, and she travels all across US in the car, so that men get to know they get breast cancer too. And the situation with men is worse than women. Men feel it's a woman's disease, so they're more shy to talk about it. Now, for both men and women, we have developed breast self-exam card. For once it is for women and once it is for men. And you will find it on our website. We have it in 20 languages. Please download and share with our network, because every month knowing our breast is very important. But here, coming back to the topic, the reason why I'm mentioning the men, because when it comes to the family history, we always forget the men. So that's why, please do not, if in a family we have women, having breast cancer, ovarian cancer, please do not ignore the men of the family. They equally have to go through the genetic testing, which I'm going to talk about, so that, the men are, because for men, it's not only about breast cancer, they'll be more prone to prostate cancer, digestive tract cancer, and other type of cancer. In that in your family, please tell your brother, or your relatives. The genetic mutations that becomes a risk factor, and the most predominant are the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genetic mutation. So, and here you can see that if a father is affected, and the mother is unaffected, but when it comes to the son and the daughter, they both, they have equal chances. Like there'll be half of the population who will have the chances to carry the BRCA mutation too, or any type of gene mutation. And you see here, we cannot ignore the men. That's why it's very important that we learn about this testing. So if in a family it's running, please advocate for BRCA1 and BRCA2 mutations, which is very important. Now, here, what I want to mention here is that what are the different, like I'll talk about the men scenario first, and then I'll take you to the female scenario, the scenario with the women. Now, I want to mention here that what are the other factors which are affecting the breast cancer in men, the genetic factors. The high penetrance genes are BRCA1 and BRCA2 for sure, but there are also other moderate and the low penetrance genes which will have an effect. Now, here there are a few syndromes also which we cannot ignore, which can be the Klinefelter syndrome or the Cowden syndrome. And the different risk factors, almost it is pretty much same like for the females what we have, but also aging, family history, inherited gene mutation, radiation exposure, alcohol, liver disease, hormonal treatment, obesity, and testicular conditions, and gynecomastia. So this can be the different factors which are contributing towards breast cancer in men. So these are the genetic factors, and also that there are different other syndromes and also different other key factors. Now, when we come to the women, right? So, what are the main? Like, though it's 5 to 10% of all cancers are due to an inherited gene effect, but still we cannot ignore the 5 to 10% population. So, it's very important that those women who have breast cancer running in the family, please do not go for a screening mammogram after 40. We really, really need to do it much earlier. We have to go to the doctor much earlier in our 20s and 30s, because I have seen so like a BRCA mutation running in the family having breast cancer or ovarian cancer at the age of 24, 25, and then mostly detected late, because it doesn't even occur to us that we can have it so early. So what I request everyone is that if we have it running in the family, let's go and do the genetic testing. There is a panel, and then if it comes as positive, we really have to do the screening much earlier, from the age of like 30. I would say for sure we have to be proactive with our screening process for breast cancer. And I always request everyone to do the breast self exam, because we really have to know our breast to detect any abnormality, especially for the younger women. Doing it every month is essential. And here are the names of different genes. And the high penetrance breast cancer genes are mostly like BRCA1 and BRCA2 is definitely predominant, but there are other genes also, and I have marked it here: P10, CDH1, STK11, TP53, and the moderate ones are this other genes. So it's not only about BRCA mutation. A lot of time patients tell me that, I did my BRCA, it came negative. But no, it's not only about BRCA. There are other genes which can actually drive, they can be the promoters for the signaling for breast cancer. So we cannot ignore that. Now, when it comes to the risk factors for women, I've already mentioned family history and everything related to inflammation. But other cases are, when it comes to the risk factors related to family history, we always also should not forget one thing, that their genes are vulnerable. If it's positive, they're more vulnerable than the common population. So for that population of women, it's very important that they keep the other environmental condition, the lifestyle, become very alert about all of that, because many times, because the genes are vulnerable, so the environmental and the lifestyle will play a much more impactful role in the progression or in the development of the cancer. So that population need to be a little bit more careful compared to the other. But though I always say 90% of the cases, it can happen to anyone. So we all have to be very careful when it comes to the breast cancer. And so one more most important, as I already mentioned, hereditary breast and ovarian cancer, which we call the Hboc syndrome. So when we have that running in the family, we have to be very, very careful. And there are also other syndromes. Here I mentioned it, Lee-Fraumeni syndrome and the Cowden, Pearce-Jaggers, and ataxia. So these are other in the syndromes which if it runs in the family, then please get a check for breast cancer much earlier as compared to the screening age, which is now like 40 to 45 is our option, but 45 to we have to do the mammogram every year. But then I would request that, please, be proactive if you're having the genes in your family. Now, coming a little bit to, so this was all about the genetic factor, the family history, right, is so important, and we cannot ignore the men. And when it comes to the genetics, it's not only about BRCA mutation, there are so many other mutations like which are moderate and low penetrance genes, especially the moderate genes, and also with the high penetrance, there are other high penetrance genes. So when we do a panel, we really have to know what is going on. So when you get the result, please don't just focus on the BRCA. Look into the others also, if any of the other genes are positive or not. So, and then we cannot forget the men of the family, and also we cannot forget if we are carrying any syndromes which are prevalent in the family. So everything coming together, it falls under the 5 to 10% population. Now, when it comes to the race and ethnicity, right, it's very important that, a lot of time, we have seen that white women are slightly more likely to develop breast cancer than Black or Hispanic or Asian women. But unfortunately, the data shows that Black women are more likely to develop more aggressive, more advanced stage breast cancer that is diagnosed at a young age. Now, the reason why Black women are, more, the survival rate is not as high as compared to the white women. And one of the main reasons that we have found is less access to the mammography or lower quality of the medical care, as well as the various lifestyle patterns. So basically, a lot of time I met women, like they from different like when it comes to the Black and the white, but then when I meet the women from Asian women, because I do a lot of outreaches in the Asian countries, especially now I'm focusing more on India and the other Asian like Bangladesh, Pakistan, and tapping into now Indonesia, Haiti, and Suriname and other places. every time I hear is late detection prevalent. So it's basically, a lot of times it's not only about the ethnicity, but also about the access to the healthcare system, access to the insurance, access to the quality of medical care, and the financial. So the socio-economic condition, it really plays a role. But definitely, this is the statistics with the ethnicity and the race. White women are slightly more likely to develop breast cancer. So it's always important that now, but things are changing. And one thing that I feel is that all the different cultures, irrespective, is now like so prevalent breast cancer is. And I feel that a lot of time it is now reported, because for example, if I take the example of India, before it was not even reported in some parts of India, like there's such huge number of women, or Asian women in general from different countries in Asia are detected with breast cancer, but now the reporting is more. But then, irrespective, the situation with breast cancer is increasing like anything worldwide. And but what are the things, like we can keep under our control, that are more common in some ethnic groups than in others, is like the maintaining a healthy diet is very important. Again, I'm coming down to exercising regularly, limiting alcohol, healthy diet, never smoking, working towards stress and anxiety. So finally, if you see this, you will figure out that everything is finally linked to underlying inflammation in the body. So it's all connected. So irrespective of, I know that race, ethnicity plays a very important role. A lot of time, the reason, other reason with the Black women, the survival being little lower compared to the white women is not only about insurance and others, but also I have seen that the dense breast, prevalence of the dense breast. So I wanted to bring this up. Even in the Asian countries, a lot of time cancer is getting missed, and because of which the detection is late. And also in the US, I have met so many women saying that though they did their mammograms, it got missed because of the dense breast concern. So if you have dense breast, please ask your doctor if you have dense breast or not. So the supplemental test would be, I would always prefer now, irrespective, let's go for 3D mammogram or tomosynthesis, or the easier additional will be an ultrasound. So that is another reason, and we have seen that with different ethnic groups, the dense breast is also more prevalent. And now it's being, a lot of research is being done that the dense breast can also be a contributor to breast cancer. So it's very important that even when we are doing the screening, we have to make sure that our screening results are 100% accurate or not. And how do we do that? Advocate that if we have dense breast, we want to do the additional screening testing. And also we do our breast self exam every month so that we do not ignore or neglect anything that's popping up or any abnormal discharge or anything. So coming back to this slide, so I know that I have said that ethnicity and race is very important, because a lot of times, also one more thing I wanted to mention, that the BRCA mutation is also a huge, it is being seen that it's very prevalent in the Jewish community too. So that's why, so a lot of communities have the BRCA mutation also more prevalent. So please, I'm again reinforcing and emphasizing that if in your family it runs, please be proactive, do the screening earlier. And on another note, coming from different ethnicity, everyone or anyone is at risk with breast cancer. The way is emerging, because 1 out of 8 women can get breast cancer in their lifetime. But race, ethnicity also is important. But how do we curtail how do we work towards it? By maintaining a healthy lifestyle, healthy diet, controlling any tobacco intake, smoking, limiting stress, and regularly exercising, having good food, because everything, finally, whatever is possible to the best of our capacity from our side, we will do that.